Yeah.
Welcome to Comics Cube presents Bag It or Slab It. I am Sean Hilton, owner of Comics Cube, one of the founders of the Kokomo Con, and today I'm joined by two of my very best friends, Mr. Nick Gray and Edward Gibson III. We've got a whole slew of comic books to talk to you about today, and we're going to try to pack it all in 30 to 45 minutes. So we're going to tell you the books that we think you should pick up and bag, those books you should slab, and those books you should throw in the trash. So here we go.
Let's take a look here.
All right. I think first up we had the Bloodstained Teeth vampire book. I knew Sean kind of pointed it out. I think all three of us read this one. We've read several vampire books, I think, the last few weeks, and even before we started recording, us talking about vampire books. This one, loved the cover. I went in not knowing anything other than, Sean was like, hey, this book came in. So picked it up, opened it up. I didn't love the art at all. I definitely wasn't a fan of the art style, even a little bit of some of the layout of it. And then, unfortunately for me, the story also didn't grab me. Premise of this book is there's the purebred or the prime vampires or the born vampires. And there's I don't think they ever say exactly how many there are, but there is a set number of those that were in existence, and they can turn others into vampires, and they call them sips. And apparently at some point that became frowned upon, and sips are inferior, and Ed is gone. It comes up with the big main character who is on the cover there. I didn't even commit his name to memory because I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to continue this book. But he apparently is taking some money to turn people into vampires. And Ed, who is it that writes Dracula?
Stoker.
Bram Stoker. But you find out Bram Stoker is an original vampire, and he wrote Dracula to put out false information and make shadow of doubt, that kind of stuff. So people think vampires are just this mystery thing or the story, but he doesn't like the main character and is going to kill him in I think it's a week if he doesn't go and kill and end every sip or vampire that he's made.
Yeah, every single one, which he's been doing this for centuries at this point.
I mean, they don't really go into that and say is it a baker's dozen? Is it 5? Is it 1,000? I'm like,
because with their strict rules of we don't do this, but at the same time he's like, yeah, but if you pay me enough, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I think it's $10,000. He'll turn you.
Yeah. So it was an interesting read, an interesting take on vampire lore. We were talking before about apparently other vampires can feed on these second, third generation vampires, but not if you've turned them, kind of deal. The art's definitely an experimental coloring style where it almost looks like a paintbrush has been streaked across the page at different times to be I want this yellow arc or this red slash here.
The pop art style, it almost feels like a new take on a pop art to me.
Yeah, but I could see that.
It didn't, like I said, it didn't appeal. The art style didn't appeal to me. Some panels, I thought it made it muddy.
Yeah.
I
wasn't.
Yeah, you guys being colorblind, I'm not even sure what you saw. So
lots of blacks, whites, or blacks and blues and yellows. That's what I saw.
This book succeeded with its cover. It succeeded with its cover dress, that logo. All of that looks great. Unfortunately, all that ends at the very first page, and then you flip it and you turn into this story, which seems to be taking vampires into the very real world of 2022 and the culture, you're getting a little vampire culture, vampire history, how they're making their way in the world today of 2022, and all that sort of thing. It appears that people must seem to know about vampires, even though it's not. I don't think that's clearly stated, but when he turns somebody and then they're immediately making videos about, YouTube videos or something about being, feeding time or something, it seems pretty apparent that the world must have an idea that they're out there. But
I got that was the problem, is that the world doesn't know about vampires, and she like a select few do, and she was like breaking taboo. You aren't supposed to tell anybody. So
yeah, but at the same time, the one like sick patient, which I'll be honest, I couldn't tell, was this a flashback? Was this a present day kind of thing? Had like a calling card basically that was like, hey, if you're ever in trouble and you got the cash, call Mr. Teeth or whatever it was, and I'll come deal with it.
Yeah, and it was like Bozo the clown on his deathbed. I don't know.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff in it. Didn't like it. I said I for me, this is definitely like this would be a pass, a leave. Yeah, Monday. You're right. You didn't miss out on this one.
It's a neat premise, but honestly, I think I leave this one on the shelf myself.
Execution and art just didn't come through.
This is one of those things where the genre might play itself out better on the small screen as a television show than it does as a comic book. As a Fox drama that's filled with violence and, some heavy drama and that sort of thing, like an HBO thing, this might be absolutely perfect, which is maybe what the creators are really wanting anyway. But as a comic book, it just felt like it dragged. It wasn't that interesting. The lore that they tried to bring you into, it just didn't carry a comic book for me. So it's definitely a pass. I don't recommend it.
Next book up was Naughty List from Aftershock. This is I think another book we all three read. This one for me popped out. I was like, I really felt this book should be coming out November, December. This should have been a Aftershock Christmas title. But as Sean pointed out earlier when we chit-chatted, that the cover isn't great. I don't think the art on the cover was well executed. I don't know if there's any other covers they did for this, but definitely I would have pulled something else. But for me, overall, compared to the last book especially, I like this story better. It is a guy who in like the 1800s or something like that, 1500s.
Oh, way before that.
Oh, it's way before that. Yeah,
I forget the date he started.
He's really vague with time. The time just kind of jumps all over.
Time kind of jumps around, but yeah, he was a woodcutter, had a beautiful wife, had a beautiful child. Sickness came to their town, and his family was all good, but the kids made him feel sad that they're losing their parents or they were sick. So one night he's out taking a stroll and he wishes on a star that I wish there was something I could do for the kids, and then he's cursed. And he becomes he's compelled to make toys, and he has to make toys, and he makes toys, and it drives his wife and his daughter away, and he can't die, even though he at one point in the book he definitely
he does some Groundhog Day style, like I drown myself in the river and I wake up in bed. You see him do all kinds of things only to wake up in bed going, it's the next day, the star won't let me die.
Yep. And the star just keeps making it so that he can provide toys, even though he does not want to do that. He doesn't want to make toys. He doesn't want to deliver toys. He tells you how he brought the elves in. Elves are apparently they're good at making toys, and they're hard partiers.
They are very hard partiers. They are. We joked about some of that, like when he's like, what are we going to do to fix this problem of getting all the way around the world? Well, there's a train full of beer coming in from Bavaria. We can just get drunk. It's like, all right, the elves, these are my kind of people.
That's the elves' answer. The elves' answer to everything is whatever illicit substance they lay their hands on. That's going to solve our problem. Yeah. But overall, it's an interesting, very if you like Bad Santa, I think it's Bad Santa-esque, was just like definitely some of the language, especially, and I don't want to be Santa Claus, and I don't like Christmas.
But he keeps doing it because he knows it's like, this is my purpose. But the
he'd give it up in a heartbeat.
star, yeah, the star keeps, every time he enters a problem, the star provides him whatever tools he needs to. Yeah, and when one of those tools comes up missing, and starts impacting the real world, he's like, okay, now I got to go solve this.
The premise of this book that book 1 sets up gives you the backstory, and you kind of get what the premise of the next, I think it's a 5-issue, are going to be. Yeah, where his naughty list gets stolen, and someone is going through and killing the worst of the worst of the worst of the naughty list.
Frank Castle got, it's like Frank Castle got,
yeah, Frank Castle got, yeah, like maybe it's a crossover. Maybe we don't know. Yeah, like Frank Castle came and he's whacking people, and at the first part, Santa Claus doesn't care. He was like, good. But then like he whacks somebody and there's collateral damage of children, and that crossed the line, and now Santa's he's coming for him.
Yeah. So
Sean, what were your thoughts on this?
I think this is the one where it's the opposite of the last one. These guys didn't get a good trade dress. They didn't get a good cover. It's not enticing at all. You don't look at that cover in May and go, oh, I want to pick that up. It's an interesting take on the vampire myth and some of the stuff they've done with the, trying to make vampires a sad figure. They live forever. They outlive everybody. And so we see that with the Santa trope. But it's got a lot of black humor, a lot of dark humor, things of that nature. If you've got a dry, cynical wit and sarcasm is one of your second languages, then I think you're going to like this. He wished upon the star, and instead of getting, a wish, he got a curse, because it's a compulsion. It's not that he won't stop. It's that he can't stop. He has to keep making these toys and figuring it out. So, and then those elves in the background, which are really just little people. I don't think they ever say there's any magical anything about him. They were like these circus reject freaks kind of thing from.
He makes a very good point of like, he's like, they die. He goes, they grow
they're
old,
not immortal.
They die. He's like, I have a new, it's like every other year he has a new head of operations.
Yep.
And he's got his little.
They have like Dancer 12 or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, the reindeer. He's like, when the reindeer die, he goes, a new one pops up. So
they just rename it. So it's a dark, cynical little look at it, and then with the twist at the end of now Santa's going to go and exact some revenge for somebody that stole his stuff. Now that comes down to know that he had that. I mean, he didn't just stumble into his house. They don't explain too much about where he is or how he does it, but it's not like it's an accident that you would know about the naughty list. That's something that, it's got to be an inside
job.
So we'll see how it goes.
I was starting to think this week we didn't have a heist book, but now it looks like we have like the person who was stolen from trying to get their stuff back. We do have a heist book.
Reverse heist, yeah. But I don't know. Even that cover kind of gives you like almost that Frank Castle Santa. Like a badly drawn. It does. Badly drawn, but like art was my critique. Art could have been better. Story's fine. I would have definitely picked this up Christmas time, because I'm like, fun, weird little Christmas comic. It's weird that it's coming out. It's weird it's coming out in May. This one though, I'm gonna pick up an issue 2 and just see if issue 2 still holds me with what happened at the end of the issue 1. Unlike the last one, the story was enough to get me to at least get me issue 2.
Yeah, I'd like to see at least what the next piece is. If it's a 5-issue, I could see myself maybe being like, let's see where it all goes. But I'm in for one more.
I'll read somebody's, but I wouldn't buy it myself. I wouldn't spend my money on it, but I'll spend somebody else's money on it.
Don't you essentially spend your money on it first?
Well, when they don't pick up their books in months, yes, then it becomes mine anyway. So,
this week, I got Flashpoint Beyond #1. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. Harley Quinn 14. If you're a Harley fan, it's a Harley book. She is always up to hijinks. Quest Aside, we're going to talk about a little bit. I think all my books we're about to talk about. So Amazing SpiderMan, Bloodstained Teeth, we already talked about. That definitely a pass for me on that one. Naughty List. If you like Aftershock books, if you like cynical Christmas themed books, it's worth the pickup. And so We Live, Age of Paladins 1. That is the new arc in the We Live series. If you've read the We Live series, worth the pickup if you like continuing that story and seeing what happens. And British Paranormal Society #1. I believe we're going to talk about it here in a minute, but that one, again, I like that definitely better than Bloodstained Teeth.
I think we all read that one. It was an okay read. It for me didn't hook me enough to pull me in and want to read. I felt like I picked up issue 2 maybe instead of issue 1.
You come in not knowing exactly what is going on.
But I know they're characters from some other Mignola series, so I definitely felt like this is a spin-off and I was not reading the original book.
It definitely has like Cthulhu vibes. It does the trope like of the town where everyone's secretive. Like, it's not breaking new ground with anything I saw or read in it. That whole story I have read and seen before. I think both seen on film and read, where, guy goes missing in a town, friend comes to the town seems weird and off. Hey, that one thing that everyone does, you guys do it a little differently. So nothing blew my mind in this book. I wish it would have had a little more going on, been a little more interesting. I would still probably pick up issue 2. We talked about whether or not it was Hellboy or not earlier, and
it is related to the Hellboy universe.
Okay,
absolutely. Yeah,
I got the impression it's long before Hellboy shows up on Earth, though.
Yes.
This is definitely pre-World War II. But I don't know. It was interesting. Was it groundbreaking? No. The art was fine. The cover I thought was a decent cover on it. If you're into kind of the paranormal society,
like
paranormal
period piece
stuff. Yeah.
Like a supernatural period piece. I think it's a good pickup. If you like the Hellboy universe, want to do a deep dive on some of the stuff that's in the background, I think it's a good pickup. Plus, these tend to be 2 to 3, 4 issue miniseries, and that's why it kind of feels like you're dropped in, because it's a series of miniseries within the shared kind of universe. I think the more important question is, who is Nick?
It's me. I'm Nick. That's who I am.
So Nick is a very good friend of mine. We've been friends for several years now. And he is, when we first started doing the live shows, he is the guy that was behind the scenes and set it all up for me, helped me with it, got all that going. He is my partner in crime in almost all creative endeavors. If there's something I'm doing, there's a chance he either helped with it or he knew about it or he's partially responsible for it. And regardless, it's his fault. So when we were going to do this, he was a good fit. He's an avid comic book reader.
There's been more than one time I've warned you against doing something.
Those were suggestions.
But yet you still went and did it with him anyway.
I mean, ride or die. But
it was going to be fun. We had a good time doing it.
I feel like it's my job to point out, probably not great, but sure.
So that is who Nick is.
All right, Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, hold up. Now we get into the more fundamental question. So I know the answer to this. It is so Nick's real name is Robert Nicholas Gray, but for whatever reason, I don't know why he has chosen to go by
he doesn't
Nick.
know.
Now, people at work call him Nitch, but I have never called him Nitch because I think that is stupid. It is obviously supposed to be Nick, and so to me, he is Nick. Now, maybe to other friends and family, he can be a Nitch, but I've never heard his wife refer to him as that either, unless maybe she was mocking him. But the only people I've ever heard call you Nitch are people at work when you had 3 Nicks, and it just made it easier to tell you apart.
Something changed a long time ago, well before I knew Sean or Ed. I was like, Ed, Ed, you're a young one, so I don't know.
I was gonna say, I don't think I was there for that. But
before you were a twinkle in Mike's eye.
Hey, this Amazing Spider-Man book. Man, I hate John Romita Jr. art.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are real big fans of John Romita Jr. art. I always look at Spider-Man as needing to be a fluid, flexible kind of character, and the first artist I think of when I think of that is not John Romita Jr. Relaunch definitely, it's scrapping almost everything from that last run. We joke about it at the time. Yeah, it's a good jumping on point. They don't pluck anything from that last run, but I think we all kind of felt a little lost too as well. One page in, they do an immediate, I think it said 6 months later. Like you see just Peter Parker panicking, and then it goes 6 months later. And so you're just like, you are very much in the dark reading this, not sure what's going on. He is mopey Parker. It's raining. I don't know that I've ever seen Romita do a book where it's not raining in New York City. Like it is always just like that.
He confuses Seattle and New York, I think.
Yeah. It's definitely kind of just a mystery to see what Spider-Man's going to be doing with a lot of this. For me, the big payoff was the very end with there's a nice little Mary Jane scene where clearly they ended things on very good terms in the last arc, like whatever issue that was, I don't know, 97, 98. And now she's like, don't call me, don't write me, don't come see me. And he's stalking her apartment building. So something's gone down, but
he's a simp.
My hope is that Romita's maybe on this for 5-6 issues, and then we get somebody else. Really, I love reading Spider-Man, but this was not exactly a spectacular #1 start.
It wasn't amazing, nor was it spectacular.
It was Peter Parker, though. That's for sure. It was Peter Parker.
It was Mopetown like Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man should have came and taken Peter Parker away for the stalker portion of the book. He's got bill collectors. Apparently he's up to his neck in college debt. You don't really they never say what crazy debt he's in.
It's hospital debt based off the last thing. He was like in the hospital for months with radiation poisoning, basically. Oh. But like even Aunt May is like, just stop calling. Like, yeah, it's one of those where if you like mopey down on his luck Peter Parker, you're gonna like this book, but we'll see how long it goes that way.
You get like a 4-panel cameo from the Human Torch in it. But yeah, it is Peter Parker being emo and crying and walking around New York and being mopey and being crappy to Aunt May, being crappy to his friends.
There's even a scene with him and Tombstone where he's just like, get in the car, and he's just like, what do you want? You want to offer me a job? I'm not going to work for you. You couldn't pay me. And I'm like, he's talking to a mafia boss, like as Peter Parker, not as Spider-Man, but like, just shoot me. He's literally doing that. Just shoot me. Just get it over with.
Tombstone was the happier character in this.
Yeah.
In the book. He is the happier go lucky character in the Spider-Man book. Tombstone, hands down.
Yeah.
Here's what I don't get about Marvel. They let this last issue go, probably their longest numbered book out there right now. It got into the mid to high 90s of issue numbers. They then revert back to a #1 to do the book. They didn't allow it to get out to 100 and then go to the #1. But then in like 3 or 4 issues, it'll be renumbered to 900 for the legacy numbering. So you guys in the bean accounting department couldn't figure out, damn, we're really close to 100. People like to buy 100s. So why didn't you let this thing run out to issue 100? Then in issue 100, have it end with that whatever scene was going to be, and then do the 6 months later nonsense, come back with this. Or do the 100 and have the very next issue be the 900 somehow, figure out how to do it. But
well, and I think they probably could have timed it if they'd have done just enough filler issues. The #1 could have been the 100. Like You know,
Yes.
this issue could have probably
Yeah.
been about your 100.
Could have done
And
legacy
then all of a
numbering of
sudden,
1/100
then you go like, yeah,
/899.
then you go like 105, which is /900. Now maybe it's, but this was even a decent sized book. I mean, it's $5.99. It was
chunky.
Yeah, but it was mostly because of Ramita's art. But
that SpiderMan book was thick.
Yeah,
it's just one of those that that 900 is going to be one of those like $9.99 almost like mini trades that they've been doing lately. But luckily, Ed McGuinness, I think, is doing the bulk of the art for that book, so I'm all for that.
Like you said, I think the art summed up. It's very blocky.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's very squared off. And then, like we talked about, like we thought it was, and when we just opened the book and looked at it before we'd read it, we thought it was a terrible lizard man, or the lizard, and wound up not being the lizard, and somebody I wasn't unfamiliar with, at least.
It's Digger. Everybody's favorite Spider-Man villain, Digger.
Radioactive Digger, where he can like
overheat
his
melt.
battery. Yeah, I don't remember him. He's like a green zombie rock guy.
I'm not going to profess to read every Spider-Man book, but I've never heard of the Digger. Yeah, so I know Big Wheel, I know Frogman. I've never heard of Digger.
Classics.
So.
Yeah. So, and apparently Peter Parker or Spider-Man melted him because he ran out of batteries.
Well,
at some point, and now he's back. So, and apparently he's going to be the big bad, and at least the second issue.
He's
ridiculous.
I don't know.
He's like the muscle for one of the new crime bosses. It seems,
Rose,
but
right?
yeah, it's
Rose's kid?
the new Rose, who is Kingpin's son.
All right.
So
yeah,
but so I don't know if you're a Spider-Man fan. It's worth pick up. Hopefully, it gets better and they explain it. Like I said, Ed really like almost the last page with Mary Jane. That really hooked him. I was more interested in the actual like prologue last pages that flashes a Doc Ock.
Yeah, go Doc.
That made me want to grab it more than anything else. I was like, well, what's he gonna do?
I think the Doc Ock thing is I think that's what's gonna tie into the 900 issue. So, but at the very least for me, it's a bag because it's Spider-Man, but not a great start. So the rest of my list, we talked about naughty lists there. We're going to talk about quests aside here in just a minute. Bloodstained Teeth and Paranormal and Amazing. I did get to read Knights of X that Sean read last week, and it's basically just continuing the Excalibur from the Krakoa era. It's my least favorite of the Krakoa stuff. You know, mutants when they go off into Otherworld and do magical things, I'm just not a big fan overall. But bringing some new faces onto the team, kind of see where it goes. Sabretooth number 3, it's the prison in Krakoa. It's interesting to see what they're doing there and how some of the mutants are actually able to manipulate Krakoa. For me, my standout, this is just childhood me living out every toy dream I had as a kid. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers versus Godzilla, when I would have like Power Rangers fight Godzilla because I had a giant kaiju in that. I mean, and now Boom and IDW were. You know what? When I heard it was announced, my first thought was, did I dream this into existence? But it's exactly what you would think. It is the Power Rangers fighting Godzilla, and like Gigan showed up, and I guarantee you King Ghidorah is going to show up before it's all over. It's good, dumb fun. Like I can read this book, have fun with it, and be like, I don't need to remember anything outside of it after that. It's not going to hold any consequence to any of the other 2 continuity pieces. So, which I'm not even reading those. I remember Sean's face when I said, by the way, I need you to pull this book for me. I think he actually did a double take, looked at me and went, why?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Power Rangers, man. Ugh.
That was, but see, growing up in the 90s, that was the thing for me. Like that, you had to have the toys, you had to have all of it.
I was aware of the Power Rangers, but that was really after my childhood or after anything that like, I think maybe I had
girls and alcohol by then.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sure I watched, like I saw a couple episodes just because it was on. I'm like, well, the remote's way over there, so whatever. But I since having children, I have watched more
I'm sure you
Power
watched a lot
Rangers.
more.
Dino Charge, I am very versed in.
Well, that I am not. This is the like original, group there that, I remember when I was in, well, probably the same age your children are. And, but yeah, it's just giant robots fighting Godzilla. I mean, what more could I want?
Yeah.
Got to work kaiju into the show every week.
All right, so we got Quest Aside number 1 from Vault. This is a satirical, dry, very funny D&D-esque adventure kind of thing that revolves around a tavern called Quest Aside. I think fans of things like Seven Deadly Sins, the manga, anime, they might enjoy this. D&D fans at least have something to relate to. Art-wise, it's a little all over the place, but it is definitely more humor related than it is like your grim dark kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that the bartender of this is a legendary, very likely 20th level style, badass character who's gone on to retire jaded and now owns a bar. And fanboys come out to visit him at his bar. And then from there, hijinks ensue. And that's the book.
It gave me the impression of what was the show that Felicia Day did that was like the cosplayers doing
YouTube show.
The Guild.
Yes, it gave me kind of that impression, and then the Critical Role, kind of like if you're in that fan base, maybe this would be right up your alley. You guys are far more into that than I am.
See, I am into those two things you just mentioned, and I didn't dig this book that much.
Okay.
I wanted to. I might give issue 2 a try. But yeah, the bartender, it alludes to that he helped make the king the king. It helped, but now apparently something the catalyst, he's going to lose his bar. So I don't exactly know what direction it's going. If he's going questing, if it's going to be like 80s style fundraiser, and they got to save the,
you got to save the ski lodge.
Yeah, I got to save the ski lodge. We got to save the rec center.
Yeah.
I don't know. Rec center. Yeah, I don't know exactly the direction that we're gonna go. Is it gonna turn into an assassin book? We've got to kill the king now. Like I don't know where we're going. I really wanted to like it. I thought some of the characters are quasi interesting. I like the undead guy that's a chef, and he talks to his cleaver because it's a sentient cleaver. So I think it's called Choppy.
I think so.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
and then there's 2 bartenders that like break the fourth wall to talk to us about the stuff they're doing. So they're like, and this is where we send off these fanboys on some ridiculous quest that they can't possibly do.
There is a big misdirect in those first 3 pages because I did not see that coming, where I just went, what the hell is this book about? When we got to that one page, I was like, what is happening here?
Oh, yeah. I was like, the kind of little bait and switch at the beginning because they were talking to you, and then we have 2 quests available. Save the maidens, all that were found left of them were their clothes, or go kill 30 wild boar or something like that. Like, we're gonna go save the maidens.
But then they break the fourth wall to let us know that this is like a joke that they do with each other and a bet to see which mission they can get these.
They always go for the maidens.
And then later on, there's a bard off where the king's bard is coming into town announcing him. Yeah. And the local lowly bard is having to contend with that bard. I think there's a lot going on. There was a lot of jokes put into one book. The idea, though, is that it's a humor book and it's not a serious book. Whereas most of the time we see these D&D-esque sword and sorcery kind of books have got like a darker,
And there were some fun references to some of those writers that do those other books where it was like, do you have the Zub whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, that's Jim Zub who does a lot of the Pathfinder stuff, Then it was like, no, but I have the Zdarsky crystal for this. And I was like, okay, that's kind of neat, but I
thought it was fun.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to pick up the next issues of this.
So what direction do you think it's going, though?
I think that they will have to come up with a way to make the king change his mind, and basically it sounds like they're going to raise the inn to build a barracks, like kind of deal. Like we're putting a thoroughfare right through your house, and so we're taking it, even though you're my best friend, and pretty much made me the king. But I mean, there's a lot of characters and stuff that were included. There's a lot of different backstories going on, but they all made sense. They all came together. It felt almost like a situation comedy kind of a thing, where you're introduced to all the staff of a bar, and you got a little bit of what their backgrounds were, and then you got the season-long thing that they were going to have to deal with. So I don't know. As I said, you guys didn't dig it. This is one of those times where if I had to stay up and be like, wrong. And,
okay. You can work on that.
I
will read issue 2 for you. I will read issue 2 for you.
I definitely admit, I got at some point into this, I was like, I'm only going to finish this because we're going to talk about it. I could tell a few pages in that this just, it wasn't my style. It wasn't what I was looking for in a book. So I was kind of like, I'll see where this goes. I got the impression that maybe, as you said, he made him the king. And I almost wonder is this bartender, was he actually supposed to be king? And he went, no, you take this. And is he going to do all right, I want my title back kind of thing?
Well, I mean, like me and Nick play D&D, and he's running a game right now. And we've got several characters. And I mean, it's pretty obvious that out of our group, if it came down to it, my character would have to take over being the king, because that's just the only thing that makes any sense. But there's other characters in that group that probably think, well, that doesn't make any sense. I should be the king. So, and that's really what that felt like was, they even talked about, there were a lot of members that came and went and didn't make it.
So Sean also misremembers his adventures, and you have to correct them on them.
Exactly.
We killed 40 fire goblins. He's like, well, I killed 20, and you cried, but yeah.
No, my guy really did all that.
Sean with a massive pull list this week.
I'll tell you what, I'm liking Task Force Z a lot more than I've liked any of the recent incarnations of Suicide Squad. If you like Suicide Squad and you have not tried Task Force Z, you need to give Task Force Z a shot. It is just good reading. Harvey Dent, Red Hood, a bunch of zombie DC villains giving a shot injection of resin from a Lazarus pit to keep them going long enough to complete missions. And that's what it's about. So highly recommend it. Betrayal, all that kind of dark stuff because of the characters. Lots of fun. Quest aside, again, D&D humor book. I thought it was a lot of fun. Free Comic Book Day is coming up May 7th. That's this Saturday. And in that assortment, we had the new Dark Crisis #0 that is going to kickstart Dark Crisis. Yet another DC crisis. Ed, how many crises have you lived through now?
I lived through? Geez.
Were you alive when Infinite Crisis came out? Or
no, I would have been born just after Crisis on Infinite Earth. So if you count, I'm trying to think. 1, 2, 3.
He was a post-crisis baby.
I've been maybe 5 or 6. Yes, I am a post-crisis baby. I was born on the new Earth 1.
So limited. No ultra.
I've lost count because I stopped reading a while ago. I mean, do we count a Flashpoint as a crisis because it reset continuity? I mean, but
hard to say.
And we'll talk about that book I think here in a minute. So,
whereas to Paranormal Society, again, if you like a period piece with some supernatural stuff, and I do, that was a good read. And it'll be short. That one's not going to be, it's going to be 3 or 4 issues at most. Rogue Sun is the one that came out of nowhere. Had no intentions of reading it. Didn't care about it. Picked it up because it's a #1. And now I'm up to issue 3. And it continues to be a really good read. If you haven't read that one yet, Image book. Guy dies. His estranged son, who he's not had contact with, takes over the mantle as a superhero, even though that guy has a family with 2 other children who know about his role as a superhero, whereas the estranged kid didn't know. And it was a fun read. Doctor Strange Nexus of Nightmares, one shot, didn't care for it. Ghost Cage #1 and 2 from Image Comics. American Manga, black and white, didn't care for that whatsoever. John Carter of Mars #1, didn't care for it, didn't like the art, didn't think the story went anywhere. Firepower 19, Kirkman, Sam Nee, I believe. Great art, fun book. The only issue I have with this one is this is like the 3rd time that they've gone back to like the secret Kunlun kind of city that they deal with. So if this is going to continue, guys, we have to eventually tell a story, maybe not based around the Secret City. She-Hulk, been loving She-Hulk. Really gets really good stuff. I just need them to now move the story forward. And then last session, 3, 4, and 5, I fell behind. Got to check. It was a 5-issue mini. It was kind of a tween, early teens drama about a group of D&D players that meet in high school, play through high school, and now they're all graduating, and this is their final session. And what happens? It's kind of those slice of life / coming of age comic books for whatever this current generation of kids is called. So whatever you're teaching, Ed, that's who this was meant for. And then Batman Killing Time #2, probably the best Bat book out there right now. Absolutely love it. Bane is a zombie on Task Force Z. He might have showed up in Joker, but yes, he's been getting injections of the Lazarus serum, the resin, to keep him going. In fact, in this last issue, like body parts fall off him all the time, and they've got to reattach him and give him more juice to get it to stick. So like his hands fall off, where just horrible things have happened. So it's a good little book. It's one of those things that could have been a whole Black Label series. They could have done some stuff with it, but it falls just light enough to be, a teen plus kind of a book. So I'd recommend it. Task Force Z. If you like that sort of thing, then if Red Hood is your jam, Harvey Dent being the leader, he is the Amanda Waller of Task Force Z. So highly recommend it.
Flashpoint Beyond. It's not a crisis. It's a flashpoint.
So this is
have a flashpoint and a crisis at the same time.
Yeah. Right.
When
I'm having a flashpoint
come together, it's like the streams.
So this is basically taking place in the Flashpoint universe, and I think they're, we're 10 years, 11 years out from Flashpoint and the resetting of DC continuity, and it's basically like Thomas Wayne as Batman has woken back up in his reality and just been like, this was all supposed to be undone. Why does my reality still exist? And he's now on a quest to try and erase his reality again. And it started with a 0 issue that we'd originally planned to talk about. I don't know that we actually did in that first show we did, but he starts trying to find his universe's Barry Allen, and he gets murdered. And he can't because his plan was get Barry Allen, have him reset the timeline and try this again. And without Barry Allen, he doesn't know what to do. And so he's on his quest. It's basically, an Elseworlder of if Flashpoint ended at issue 5 and that reality spun off and kept going, here's what happened. The art's pretty decent. I mean, the stories, again, if you're reading it as a DC Elseworlds, it kind of has that, injustice feel, just because this is an Earth where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And so you've got Thomas Wayne out there hunting down, like in this issue, he's hunting down Aquaman and Wonder Woman to try and get some answers on, who killed Barry Allen, basically.
Yeah, because he goes in thinking that Aquaman sent assassins to kill Barry Allen. And yeah, I liked the art in it was good. I don't read a lot of Batman. I don't read a lot of DC books other than some Black Label stuff. I actually kind of enjoyed this over the stuff we read this week. I actually liked this book quite a bit. I'm not sure if I'm in it for the entire Flashpoint Beyond, and that is more of a reflection of like me, and I just don't generally. I didn't make it all the way through the last Flashpoint when it happened. I may own all of it, but I just gave up because I was like, there's a lot. I don't care. But the story was interesting to know what's like Thomas Wayne trying to figure out what's going on, why he is back in existence, and there's a kid involved, and I think me and Ed both are saying that kid is involved somehow.
I get the impression you should not leave this kid unattended. Like someone needs to be having eyes on this kid at all times.
But the Penguin taught him how to shoot a gun because Batman was like,
I mean, Thomas Wayne doesn't have a Robin, right?
No, I very much think he's going to become Robin in some way. Like that was the impression I got as soon as he's like, watch this kid as I go down to the Batcave. And I was like, okay, this kid's gonna go down to the Batcave and just be like, I want to help. I learned how to shoot.
Yeah.
You
What's
know?
up with the 11 minutes?
So I wonder, does that have anything to do with the, they said the next issue is like hyper time. I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
I am willing to bet that 11 minutes is where their reality stopped, and like 11 minutes is missing.
Oh,
Something
because
like that's the Flash.
maybe
Or,
that's where Barry
whatever
reset the universe and they splintered off.
Yeah, whatever happened, it.
Well, and
I think it has to do with that. So
a couple of years ago, there was the Batman Flash crossover where it was supposed to like bring the Watchmen in.
The button?
Yeah, and Batman, because this cuts to the main, what I'm assuming is the main DC reality, with Barry Allen and Batman talking about that.
Yeah.
And I almost wonder, does that have anything to do with it? Because they talk about Zoom, maybe being, or not Zoom, Thawne being back, the Reverse Flash. So
yeah, I think it's.
I'm sure that's the mystery that'll pay off in the end. Batman has an artifact that seems to also be from maybe the Flashpoint reality.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a Watchmen button combination to pay this whole thing off.
So
I liked it a lot. I think it actually did have me borderline. Do I want to get the rest of it? Like, do I want the payoff? Do I want to know? Because I want to know about the kid, the 11 minutes. I guess why Thomas Wayne's back. I like the Thomas Wayne Batman because, Arkham's a lot easier to manage.
I enjoyed Oswald when the kid asked for he wants a gun, and Oswald's response is, "What kind?
What kind of gun do you want to shoot? I want to learn to shoot a gun. What kind of gun do you want to shoot?"
Not a hey, that's not a good thing for you to do or anything. No, but what kind? So yeah,
Oswald basically being Thomas's Alfred is just kind of a like, this is a recipe for disaster, but it's kind of one of those fun train wrecks to watch. Like, it's all going to go wrong. It's an interesting book. Having not read any DC, and honestly, with this one, you almost don't need to.
Yeah,
it's all an alternate reality.
I didn't even read this issue 0, so yeah, I was I felt like I was fine not reading it.
You didn't miss anything by missing the 0. I was
gonna say the 0 was worse.
They summed it all up. That was
much better than the 0. So we've got this comes out on Saturday. Book. Yeah, it's totally free, right? Yeah, for those of us, you had to pay for it, but we appreciate your service. There. Dark Crisis Special Edition. A lot of the DC and Marvel both started doing this, where on Free Comic Book Day they launch their big summer event now with a 0 issue basically. And so DC's doing Dark Crisis. This ties in with the recent Death of the Justice League. Was that last week, Sean?
Yes.
So basically the Justice League is dead. You get a primer on who are the Justice League, who's been the Justice League, what have they done, and it ends with that kind of who's going to be the Justice League coming up. And I'm assuming that a lot of those characters we saw in kind of the silhouette have the potential to be the new League.
Yeah.
But this felt like it really gave you a full, here's every crisis we've ever done summed up in about 5 pages, and how they all fit together and how they all were leading to the real crisis.
The Dark Crisis.
Right. Because they did, the neat scene was the villain from every one of the other crises they said had been influenced by this all-encompassing darkness that makes up the universe. So, you see the Anti-Monitor, you see Darkseid, you see who was it? Was it Parallax in 0 Hour or Crisis in Time?
Yeah.
So, and that's a funny question, because we were just talking about this too. Issue 7 of Dark Crisis comes out in December, so this looks like it's going to be summer to summer, maybe.
But the amount of books coming out was not huge.
Yeah, I think it was 12 going all the way to December.
Yeah,
because it's one next, not counting this one. It's one next month, then 2, or then 3, then 2, then 3, then 2.
It's one of those where you've got like the main book goes at least 7 issues through December, but then you've got maybe like there's like Dark Crisis, Young Justice, Dark Crisis, I'm sure
Yeah.
The Flash and Batman, Dark Crisis, Green Lantern Corps. So
do you think that in the Dark Crisis that it's going to be one of the ones where if you don't read the side books, it's going to be almost impossible to follow, or that if you get these 7 books, you'll be good?
I think if you get these 7 books, you're probably going to be fine. They'll do is they'll have the big event in book 1, and then that will go off into the sub books and how they deal with it and talk about it. But I would imagine the majority of the things that happen in those books won't touch on the 1 through 7, whereas the 1 through 7 will be the powder keg that sets off what happens in those other, related books.
Sometimes there's one tie-in book that actually ties in far more than the rest, and it might be between 4 and 5, and it's like, oh, you really want to read, like it was Secret issue 8, like you really want to read it. But overall, they usually do a pretty good job of weaving those threads back in, and I can't say I'm going to read Dark Crisis. I haven't read the last few major DC events. It was a fun issue. You get some great Jim Chung art throughout the first 8 pages with a Flash battle. I mean, that's just gorgeous art to look at.
Yeah, I'd happily have read a whole comic about that.
Yeah, when it stopped being his art, I was kind of disappointed, but considering he drew the greatest DC character of all time on page 1. So
Aquaman?
No.
I remember Aquaman being in that book.
Mike is not in this book, so
is he not there fighting that?
He is. He's there. But
the Sand Dollar. Isn't it the Sand Dollar?
The space, the Star Conqueror.
The sea cucumber. Yeah. The space cucumber.
See what you say when Starro's got a hold of you.
But
this will be one of the 3 books on Saturday.
We did point out it was a little odd that they're doing that. We're kicking off Dark Crisis as well as the Flashpoint Beyond. So we have like 2 DC arcs, like events that seem to be starting right now. So that seems a little odd.
The Beyond seems to definitely be kind of running in its own thing. We'll see how they tie together, but
the culmination, both they tie together in the last after book 7, like 8, 9, and 10. Those are all. It's the
Flashpoint Beyond the Dark Crisis. That's what it'll be. It'll be the Omega book.
But yeah, I believe that is all the books we had.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, I appreciate you coming in and checking us out. And we'll be back with you next Monday with a new whole slew of books to talk about. And we'll have some other stuff going on. Till then, be groovy.